anyone want to ask some questions or have a chat or anything like that? Anybody got some stuff they want to talk about? Or we just keep babbling? I can babble for hours. I have no sense of time. But
I have a question.
Sure.
Do you think it will get much worse before it gets potentially better?
Will it get much worse before it gets better? I think it will if people don't stand up, if people continue to comply. I mean, if people start signing up for this smart technology and all this sort of stuff, and they're doing it sort of gradually. And Sandra got a letter the other day saying you can come on here, just scan this QR code, and you can be one of the new people to set up your online digital profile.
Some people like it.
Some people like it because they can't think for themselves. I mean, and it might even get to a point where we split timelines. People will go down that digital path. And yeah, but I mean, look at where that's going. Look at what's going on in China. There's like hundreds of people commit suicide every week in China because they're blacklisted by the social credit system. They can't go on public transport. They can't go into supermarkets. They can't rent homes. They can't do all sorts of stuff. Maybe it'll have to get to that point before people see it. And maybe the timelines will split. You're going to have to create these alternate communities, these alternate societies. And maybe it'll just get to that point where it's a manifestation, it's a projection, and the timelines simply split. Who knows? Or maybe it'll all happen within one reality. But I think it has to get to a certain degree worse. But the system they're creating is so dysfunctional and so anti-human, and yet its food is humanity, it's human participation. But it's getting so grossly inhuman that humans won't even survive within its parameters, so it's going to kill its own food source. So it's kind of destined to collapse anyway, but it might have to get a lot worse before that happens. But if you're in touch with your life skills and you know that it's your path, I mean, ultimately, even with what I'm saying with connect with your community and all that sort of stuff, we need as many people to make it through as possible. Of course, we do. But ultimately, you're on your path. You came into this world alone, and you're going to leave this world alone, and it's what you do along the way, what your path leads you through. I've often said, you know, no stake in the outcome. Throw yourself to the wind, and you can ride it. You know, and that's what works. Because ultimately, you came here to die. That's a given. It's the energetic state you're in and what's going to lead you to that path, what's going to lead you where you are. The energetic state you're in when that time comes, when you have to make that choice. And if you're prepared to face infinity without flinching, like I've often said, you know, the knack of being able to face with serenity odds and circumstances that were not included in your calculations and simply do what needs to be done and go with that flow with no stake in the outcome, because know you're ultimately going to be led back to source anyway. You know, I think it has to get worse. And it is getting worse. It might not be getting worse personally for us, but it's going to with the smart grid and all this sort of shit. But look at the state of the world. Look what it was in 2019. It's almost unrecognisable. You know, with this whole COVID scam and this LGBTQ stuff and the trans agenda and the vaccines and the war in Gaza and all this. I mean, if you wrote a movie script to go from 2019 to 2024, you wouldn't even participate. You think it's too far-fetched. There's no way anyone's going to believe this script, you know. And we've just lived through it for the last 4 years. So, you know, yeah, I think it's going to get worse. But how does that affect you? Will your life particularly get worse, personally? Well, only if you look at things from that perspective and look at things through those eyes. I mean, in crisis, there's opportunity in all crisis. You know, the Chinese word for crisis and opportunity are actually interchangeable. I think that's kind of interesting. And if you didn't have these crises in your life, how would you ever grow? How would you ever have the opportunity for spiritual growth if you didn't have the choice to choose between good and evil? So yeah, I think it's going to get worse. But hey, I'm enjoying the whole ride. I don't care. I only came here for a breath. I'm 66 now. I'll be dead in a minute. I don't care. If the human race kills itself, well, I offered a better suggestion. Hey, I did what I could, you know, and ultimately if it doesn't matter. The experiment fails, well, I guess we'll just have to run it again, because we all come from the same source anyway. You know, it's just a thought in the mind of God. This is one possibility of reality. Perhaps if this fails, well, there'll be another possibility of another reality, and we'll do the whole thing again. And even when you look at all the ancient civilizations and all this stuff, it's almost like game fields. It's like game arenas, like online game arenas that have just had more civilizations built over the top, and we keep coming in here and doing this good and evil experiment to see whether we're ever going to get it right. And each time it happens, consciousness gets a little more refined, a little more connected, a little more distilled. You get rid of all the baggage along the way. So, you know, there's a good and a bad side to it all. It just depends on what you consider good and bad to be and what you consider reality to be. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to get worse, but in that worseness, it's got to get better as well if you really look at it through the right type of eyes. Anybody else got something to say? The New World Religion, Islam. Chrislam. I think all religion is demented. I know Christians mightn't like me saying that, but I think that religion is designed to lead you away from God. You're doing what this guy says in the book. Yeah, and this book, all religious books, whether they've got a lot of good stuff in them or not, they've also all got a seed of supremacy at their root. Even the Christian Bible, you've got to be tolerant of all the other religions, but you're the ones who got it right. You're the ones that are going to heaven. Islam will tell you the same thing. Judaism will tell you the same thing. Hindu, they'll tell you the same thing. It's all, you know, be tolerant of everybody else, but you're the one who's got it right. And even when you look at Christianity, how many denominations of Christianity is there? And they all hate each other. Yeah, it's just crazy. It's crazy. And, you know, you're going towards these parameters and stuff in this book. And look in the Bible, it's a brutal book. Not a lot of good times in the Bible, not a lot of happy memories in the Bible. You don't hear people playing on the beach and telling nice stories to each other. It's all death and destruction and wrath of God and wars and all sorts of crap. Yeah, it's pretty hardcore, you know. And like, I think we've all got a connection to the divine. We are all a thought in the mind of God. I have conversations with God all the time. And no, I don't hear voices. But, you know, we get on great. We've got this great relationship going on. I don't need anybody's book to get in the way. Even when, I've had people say to me, oh, you know, you're always speaking out again to protect the Muslims and stuff. I'm not, I think the Muslims have been incredibly victimised. There's a real effort to wipe these people out. And I haven't met any bad Muslims. I mean, when I was in Gaza, they were all incredibly nice and incredibly kind to me. So, you know, I think that the fact that there's an effort to wipe them out means they've probably got something to offer. And when I talk about energy and the energetic state of the universe and all the stuff I've gone through today, when I was in Gaza, and people would say to me, if you argue religions with Muslims, I'll cut your head off. Well, I was in Gaza and I was having all these discussions with them, and they're telling me, you're a Muslim, you just don't know it, because all of this stuff's in the Quran. And I'm going, well, if I already know it and I haven't read the Quran, why do I need to read the Quran? And they go, oh, because Muhammad was a prophet, and rah, rah, rah. I'm saying, didn't he just channel all that stuff from the divine, and he wrote it all down, and you guys do it? And they go, yeah. And I said, well, if I'm already aware of all this stuff, how do you know I'm not channeling it from the divine? And they couldn't argue with me, you know. And I was just saying, you know, I think the book gets in the way of your direct connection to God. All these religious prophets and all these people, all they can do is give you their expression of what they feel. It's whether you want to take that on yourself. It's like when you read a self-help book. I can write a book on how I help myself by doing certain things in the hope that by reading that there might be little bits of wisdom you can glean from that you can apply to your own life, which might help you become this better person. But, you know, if you read my self-help book and you do everything I did, well, you're never going to become me. That was my path, you know. All the author is really offering you is some perspective to try to help you get these wisdoms for yourself. And I think it's the same with religion. You know, we've all got this connection to the divine. When we start going by parameters in the book, you start seeing little bits of control. I can't do this, or I can't do that, or I can't do this, or I shouldn't do that, or that's evil, or this is a sin, or, you know. It's not really about any of that, I don't think. I mean, we all know what is right and what is wrong. We know what is good and what is bad. We might lie to ourselves a lot, so we pretend we don't, but ultimately we do. You know, but we don't believe in ourselves. We need someone else to confirm that for us. We need validation for everything. Oh, I'm doing the right thing. I'm validated because it says so in this religious book. You know yourself. You know, believe in yourself. You know the connection to the divine is there. It's in every single one of us. But we just don't listen. We need validation from somewhere else. And, you know, we don't believe in ourselves. We need to belong to some sort of a tribal understanding and stuff. So we join some religion, rah, rah, rah. And they're sure, okay, they're trying to bring it all together into one thing. Well, that's not really going to work, is it? because you've got so many religious fanatics. It's just about another way of creating another war, I would say. You know, the New World Order religion. I mean, we don't need religion. We need divinity. We need a connection to God, and that doesn't come within the parameters of any religion. I don't believe anyway. You know, just through my experience in life. You know, so that's my thought on that. Yeah.
We are all focused on the climate, but not on food. Who knows to control the food,
control the food, control the water. I mean, that's what a lot of the climate stuff is about. It's saying farming is one of the most dangerous things you can do for the climate now. We need to stop farming or we're all going to starve. Figure that one out. Al Gore said that. Stop farming or we're all going to starve, right? I'm seeing school kids, and they're interviewing school kids, and they're saying, yeah, farming, we've got to stop farming. It's one of the leading causes of climate change, and people eating meat. People have got to stop eating meat because this is one of the main contributing factors. People should become vegetarians. This guy's saying people should become vegetarians, but we need to ban farming. How's that going to work out for you? You know, where are you going to get your vegetables from? It's the mentality of these people. So yeah, I mean, it's all about depopulation, putting everybody against each other, and seeing common human practices as being what is destroying the world. It's your fault. Your fault because you're eating. It's your fault because you're breathing. It's your fault because you're growing food. It's your fault because you're white, of course, as well. We can't have any of those things. It's all white supremacy. I saw a thing on my last video where they're saying eating meat is racist. You know, it's this white supremacist. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. You know, so I mean, we're under attack from so many levels, which is why we have to grow up and why we have to start questioning authority. Who are you? How are you valid to say any of these things that you're saying? You know, so and this whole climate agenda, it's got me amazed how many people are actually buying into it, how many people believe it. I mean, it's like COVID though. I mean, when COVID happened, I honestly thought, well, this is going to be the big red pill that everybody needs. But hey, they all did it. They all did it. It's incredible, absolutely incredible. So, I mean, it gets to a point where you've got to step back and realise this is about a personal journey. It's about your path through this realm and what you do and how you come out the other side. And, you know, even people who think there's going to be an ascension or there's going to be the rapture or, you know, move to fifth dimension or all that sort of stuff. Well, you're not going to take this physical vessel with you, are you, when that happens? So it's all about death anyway. You know, and like I said, it's a one part of life which is inevitable. And something that I've often said, like in my film The Awakening in 2010, when I said one of the big things we come here to learn is the language of feeling and emotion. Because it's an emotional mirror. This is why they keep everybody in fear and everybody in terror of all this sort of stuff, and you know, attracting all this sort of energy, because it's an emotional mirror. And you've got to learn this emotional language. There's like 105 higher senses that people aren't aware of, and there's this electric, emotional conversation going on all the time, which is what you're going to need to move to the next realm. I guarantee you move to fifth dimension or the rapture or whatever, you're not going to have a physical body and this voice and this language that you've got now. It's going to be an electromagnetic emotional conversation. And if you don't know that language and you didn't learn that language while you're here at this school doing this exam, then you're going to have to come back and repeat the experiment. Which is why reincarnation and all this deja vus and all these things happen all the time, because people just aren't getting it. People are trapped in this loop. So yeah.
Tell something about geoengineering and weather modification. Is it something we need to be concerned about, or is it a conspiracy theory? There's absolutely weather modification going on. Anyone ever been to a website called Weather War 101? Anybody seen that website? I think it's been taken down now. They showed how they've been manipulating and controlling the weather for at least the last 100 years, probably longer. You know, all the storms are manufactured, all the storms are controlled, they're all steered, they're all created. Once you see the process, and they run them through Doppler radars and power stations. A lot of the power stations let off steam. It's all controlled and driven through the Doppler radar system around the world. There's certain people out there that will tell you it's all HAARP and blah, blah, blah. I disagree with that. I don't think HAARP is controlling the weather around the world. I think it's done locally from Doppler radars, because once you see the process, you can see this happening with almost every storm on Earth. They're all created, they're all driven, they're all steered. They all come from certain places at certain times. It's all heavily manipulated. And it supports their climate agenda.
You know, because now they can say anything's climate change. Remember, it was global warming once, but then that didn't really work out for them. They realised it's actually cooling more than it's warming. And then Al Gore said in 1995 they expected that New York and all these places to be underwater. A metre of water in New York within 5 years. By the year 2000, it's all going to be over. Everyone's going to be underwater. That was 24 years ago. Now they're saying it again. The guy came on the other day and said we've got 2 years or 5 years or something. 2 years?
The UN climate change.
Yeah, was it 2 years?
He said in 2 years we're all going to be dead.
Yeah, 2 years we're all going to be dead from climate change. Of course we are, you know. But all the spraying in the sky and everything now, like just create hurricanes, create all this stuff and say it's climate change. You know, man-made climate change. And there's no evidence for any of it, but it supports their agenda. Bringing out, terrifying people with this whole climate agenda, how we're all going to die because we eat meat and grow vegetables and have chickens, and you know, well, it's just nuts. So that's what I mean. It gets to a point where you just got to step back and I mean, I'd like to change all this. I've been trying to change. I've been gently sort of prodding people for the last 20 years out here on the front line, doing this for 17 or 18 years, making videos, trying to get people to just, you know, politely wake up and see what's going on. And it's got to the point now where I don't know, I'm just looking at the freak show going, I'm just going to enjoy the ride, what's left of it. Because I can't see any way of really stopping this. I think the world's going to have to crash and burn. The system's going to have to crash and burn. And like I said before, I think we'll probably create like 2 timelines. It's not really going to affect my reality because I'm not going to participate in it. I never have and I never will. And I don't have any stake in the outcome, so if I die along the way, well, that's okay because that's what I came here to do anyway. So I'm just going to kind of boogie through it and just enjoy the freak show and the way I always have. Like I lived on the outside of society and just watched it and played guitar and thought, you're all nuts. So I'm just going to do this, you know. And that's kind of what I'm doing now. I mean, the only reason I even come and bother and do these talks and do these walking talks and things is to try to provide inspiration to people, try to provide some sort of comfort and some solace for people to know that, yeah, you're on the right path and it doesn't really matter. You don't need to have a stake in the outcome. I mean, we've offered suggestions. We can lead by example in what we do. Change your particular part of the world. Change the way you interact with people, like what you guys are doing, building that place with the retreat, and this is all great stuff. I mean, create that reality yourself. And if the world turns into shit, well, we know that no one's going to be dead in 2 years. It's all going to be the same thing. They'll be bringing another agenda, and people will be buying into that, and they'll be taking more jabs, and they'll be dying off, and rah, rah, rah. Like I said, all the stupid people are opting out. So another 5 or 10 years, there's just going to be smart people left, and that'll be a great world. So I say, bring it on. I don't really care anymore. I mean, I'm doing what I can. I'm offering other suggestions. Here's door number 1. You can walk through there. If you choose the other 2 doors, well, that's your problem. All I can really do is offer a suggestion that I lead by example in what I do, and you be the best version of yourself that you can, and that's how we change the world. If you choose not to do that, well, that's not my problem. That's your problem. You know, so that's really the way you've got to look at it. You've got to kind of step back a little bit now. You know, we kind of get a little bit over-empathetic towards the rest of the human race. And we have too much stake in what the world might become rather than envisaging what we want it to become and working towards that. And that's not to say that don't look at the shadow, ignore the bad stuff, you know, not my reality, you know. Where attention goes, energy flows. By talking about all this negative stuff, you're creating it. Well, no, by ignoring it, you're creating it because the shadows in the world, if you refuse to admit the shadows in the world, this shadow is going to grow. That's the way it goes. But I can see the shadow in the world and I choose to just ignore it and walk through the middle of it. You know, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, blah, 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 I will feel no evil, I'll fear no evil. Because it can't touch you. None of this can touch me. None of this can affect me. I'm an eternal soul, same as you. I just came here for this experience, you know, and I'm having a great time. So I don't care how dark they try to make it. I'm not going to participate. I'll just kind of laugh at it and watch the other people kind of fall on the wayside as they choose to do so. It's their choice. So, you know, that's kind of the way you've got to look at it. You really do. You can't have too much stake in what's going on because, I mean, we're all going to be dead soon anyway. So, you know, like I said, it's how we approach that. You know, that's the way I look at it anyway. So, yeah. Who's got something to say? This man, he's got a joke for us.
Oh, no, it's no joke. Max, what they did to us for 3 to 4 years this psychological nightmare has tortured people. They have what they call Stockholm Syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't believe that they took the shot. It was all a big joke. And then 90% or more in Switzerland took the shot. I can't trust anybody anymore because they are compromised. This is a big problem for us. The trust factor is what it's all about. If you don't trust anybody, and you can't trust yourself, like you say, you're hopeless, you're in big trouble, and trust isn't something you can buy, and this is what I figured out, Max. I've been following you quite closely, and Sylvia and I, we talk about it all the time. You're on the right track, Max, totally. But people don't get it because they're so scared. They're scared shitless that they're going to lose their dollar, you know, and they can't pay the bills. And this is why they got them to take the vax. It just cornered them, and now they're watching them with, you know, the 5G, and everybody's got a tracker in their pocket. They know exactly what to pick and what to, it's a psyop. It's a major psyop, and we're all in it. And we're in a matrix.
Oh, yeah.
We're in that matrix, and we can break free of the matrix. There's one way to do it, and that's with love in your heart. If you get sucked into this hate shit that they're trying, you go deeper into it. And there's no way out, and it's 7 times worse when you go in there.
Exactly.
Because you get that anger in yourself, and it's what do? We have to pray for our enemies.
Yes.
Well, it's like I said
We
about...
gotta have love in our hearts.
It's like I said about you, I'd like to go to Israel and rip Bibi Netanyahu's head off, but in many ways I have to thank him for what he's doing to wake the world up, you know. So, yeah, you can't have too much stake in the outcome of all that sort of shit, brother. And you can trust yourself. You can trust Sylvie, you know, you can trust what you believe in your own heart, and by not having a stake in the outcome anyway, I mean, all of these idiots have revealed themselves. You know, you can see it now, so why would you not just believe in yourself? And you know, like the best thing you can do is develop your life skills. You know how to. I've often said you've got to be able to walk into the jungle with a knife and a piece of rope, and know how to survive. You can build a shelter. You can do some hunting. You can do some fishing. Do whatever. You know, because you've got no stake in any of this anyway, and you just watch the world burn. If the world's going to burn, it's their choice.
It's going to burn down.
Well, it has to. It's the only way through this.
That's the entire plan. This Agenda 2030 is to burn it down to the ground.
Well, like I said, the men with small hats, you know.
Mad Max are people.
Like I said, the men with small hats. I mean, they were, you know, made God's chosen, but which God? And you know, and they were given an agenda that you can rule over the world. Just burn the world down, and I will let you rule over the ashes.
And that's that great reset, right? That's
Exactly. So, but why? I mean, we've done what we can to try to change this. We've done what we can, and we still can. And I still believe that there will be a lot of goodness make it through to the other side. If I'm not part of that, I mean, if I don't make it through and I'm not on that car riding out into the sunset, I don't care. I have no stake in that. You know, I believe that I've left enough words behind and enough inspiration behind, and I've connected with enough people that there will be that spark of divinity that makes it through to the other side. It may not be me.
It's the 100th monkey. That's what I think. We got 60 here. We just need another 40.
Yeah.
We're all monkeys, right?
Yeah.
And
Well, I don't know, we're going to turn into a troop then. We're getting into this before. But, you know, it's you can't have a stake in it. I mean, like I said, I'd love to get through to the other side because I want to see the end of the movie. You know, I want to see the end of the movie.
I also would like to say something. Croatia is a beautiful country, and we are from Switzerland, I'm from Germany. And what I find all my life is that people always have to go somewhere else to find beauty. But in the meantime, it's in your own backyard.
Yeah.
It's not only in your own backyard, but also you can
In
find
your own
pretty
heart.
beautiful stuff in your own hometown, in your own family, in your own community. And I found that in today's world that it is on TikTok and all the things where you learn the new skills, what is like sewing and cooking, and all these cooking shows come up. But in the meantime, it is such an old heritage thing that everybody should be able to cook something nice and what tastes good without going to the supermarket. There's a lady from New Zealand, she didn't use the supermarket for 1 year, and she's awesome. Yet she was put down by people who believed in the outside because her teeth are not that great, and they commented on her teeth. She's a beautiful soul, she cooks wonderful meals for next to nothing, but yet somebody has to put her down for outside things, like the big house, the big, whatever it was. I was very shocked about that.
No,
very shocked. And she almost left the show by not doing that anymore. And she's a poor woman, actually. She has excellent life skills, excellent life skills. You're not going to the supermarket for a whole year. That should tell you that these are
A lot of
excellent
people
skills.
couldn't do that. They couldn't possibly do that. Like I said, a lot of people can't even plant a seed anymore.
Like you said, Max, know thyself. That is the greatest goal in life, knowing
That's what you
yourself.
came here to do.
That's what the Oracle of Delphi is all about. If you know yourself, you will definitely live a happy life. If you know what is inside it, you did the right thing, Max. As far as I'm concerned, even though you know all the shit what's going on, and all I'm asking is, yet you're a happy person. What I see, when I see you on show, you're
I'm
happy,
not always happy.
but not as happy. What I understand what you mean, but from the soul, you seem to me like a satisfied, happy person, even though all this stuff is going on.
I think it's just
and
having.
that one I admire.
I think it's having a calmness in the face of it all. I mean, you can't get angry and frustrated. I mean, we all do. We get little angry, frustrated moments.
But I admire that.
But you've got to have this sort of calmness. I mean, I had horribly angry, frustrating moments in the last few days, you know. But you kind of get through it, you know. And it's just a temporary thing. It's kind of an indulgence, you know. In many ways, you know, when something like that bad happens, it's an opportunity to get into that for a little minute, you know, and be a little bit depressed or be a little bit angry because, you know, it's an experience. It's like having an ice cream or something, you know. So, but you've got to have that sort of calmness through it all. I mean, really, when you can see what the world is, and like I said, you have to remove stake in the outcome. Look, if the human race destroys itself, it's not my problem, you know, and I don't really care, you know. Because I'm only here for a breath anyway. I mean, I'd love to be here longer, and I'd love to see the end of the movie and all that sort of shit. But you know, it's the collective choice of each individual as to how they're going to apply themselves to the world. And if they're going to refuse to do that, well, the world's going to go where the world's going to go. You know, and if we don't change the direction that we're headed, we're going to end up where we're going, and that's not a good thing. So. But you got to look at it through the right attitude. Like I said, no stake in the outcome. I'm only here for a breath anyway. I'm 66 now. You know, in 40 years from now, what's the world going to look like? Well, I don't know. I probably won't even be here. You know, so why do I really care? You know, all I care about is that I leave it better than how I found it. And I suppose I haven't really done that physically when you look at the state of the world. I mean, the forests are gone. I haven't prevented that or any of that. But maybe I've left human consciousness in a little bit better state than how I found it, you know. So I appreciate that, thank you. But I think that's what it's about, you know. And like I do this because it needs to be done. Ultimately, that's really the only reason I even started doing these shows or doing all these talks. I mean, it certainly isn't a career choice, you know. Look at my career. I've lived on my own for the last few decades, and now I'm isolated, living in exile in Mexico. I mean, what I've really succeeded in achieving is destroying most of my happiness and most of my security in life, if you really look at what I've achieved. But hopefully I've achieved helping people think about themselves a little bit more. So hopefully we're going to have more of that spark of divinity come through the other side, and it's going to create a better reality. And like I said, if you really look at it as a distillation of human consciousness and a distillation of the spirit to lead us more closer to the divine, well, then it's all worthwhile, because there's really only one of us here anyway. So what does it matter, you know? That's the way you've got to look at it. So.
You said you had to flee Australia. What actually happened?
I just had an intuitive feeling I should go. I was getting these really intuitive feelings. What inspired me to leave was I'd actually applied for a shooter's license 14 months before, and it suddenly arrived in the mail after 14 months. Why are they giving me a gun license? Surely if they spent 14 months investigating who I am, why the fuck would they be giving me a gun license? How are they going to set me up? This gun license gives me the opportunity to go and buy bullets and gunpowder. I can't buy any guns because I haven't got a permit to acquire any weapons, but I can go and buy stuff. And I thought they're going to set me up. They're going to set me up as a domestic terrorist. I just having all these thoughts, you know. I was getting these intuitive feelings that I needed to leave, you know, and these were coming stronger and stronger and stronger. And then I got a letter from a police officer said, we'd like you to come and have a chat with us because you spoke at this rally. We know you didn't organise the rally, we know you're one of the speakers and we think we should have a chat with you anyway. I'm thinking, that's interesting. Why are police emailing me? They're not just coming to see me. Then I figured, well, actually, they don't know where I am. Because I don't have any bills in my name, I don't have any electricity in my name, my registration, my car, all this stuff is all at my sister's place. So they don't actually know where I am. I found that's interesting, but it's interesting. And I often wonder whether this police officer wrote me this letter as a way of warning me that, yeah, we want to have a chat with you, you know. But I kept getting these intuitive feelings. And then I found out, well, you're not actually allowed to leave the country without asking permission. I thought, well, that's a pretty good reason to leave, you know. And you got to apply for permission, you know. And the only way we'll let you leave Australia is if you've got a job invite to go and work overseas in a registered company. And you've got to go for longer than 3 months. And I thought, okay, so I had a friend who runs a cell phone company in the United States. I said, can you send me a job invite? Yeah, no worries. I'll work it all out for you. It was totally professional. Yeah, come here, get your work visa. We're really looking forward to bringing you on board in the company. And it's complete bullshit, you know. And I kind of forgot about that as well. And then he sent me the invite and I applied to leave. And then I got the approval. Yeah, you can leave. You can leave any time within the next 3 months. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, now I've got everything I need to actually go if I want to. And I'm still getting these intuitive feelings. And I went online and I booked the ticket and I was going to push enter. And I said, no, I don't want to go. I'm really happy where I am. I don't want to go. And then I kept getting these really full-on intuitive, like it was pulling up my solar plexus. You got to get out, you got to get out. If you don't get out and they come for you, because you know everybody in Australia, you know the entire resistance in Australia. I've been doing this for 16 years, 15 years at the time. I know all of the operatives. If they get me and get my computer and they get my contact list and they're able to use that shooter's license they gave me to set me up as a right-wing extremist, they're going to be able to paint the entire Australian resistance as right-wing extremists, and it's going to be really bad for everybody. And probably look at it as an international cell, because all the interviews I've done with international people, you know, if they wanted to set someone up as a right-wing extremist and to take down the resistance, I'm the perfect candidate for them to do it in Australia, because I was probably the most active voice in Australia and I had the most contacts. All this stuff's going through my head. I'm going, that'd be a pretty good plan, really. If I was the cops, that's what I'd do. I'm still getting these feelings, and I just went, ah, shit. And I went on and I booked the ticket and bang, I said, I'm going. And then I left. I came to Mexico. I got to LA. It was crazy. The trip, it was just crazy. I got on a Boeing, like 340 Airbus or whatever. And there were 8 people on the plane. It was freaky. It was really freaky. I'm walking through Brisbane Airport and it's black. It's closed. All the shops are closed. There's just a lights down the corridor. I get to my gate. Look, the only people I saw were 2 people there who gave me the ticket. And then there were 2 people on customs. One who's looking at the baggage scanner and one helping you put your bag in. And there was a sign there where you go through the little turnstile opens, and the sign, there's an extra thing there that said, by leaving Australia, do you understand that returning may be difficult and expensive? Do you wish to proceed? I'm like, ooh, haven't seen that before, you know. Kind of brought it home. Pushed it, went through and got to the gate. There were 7 other people there at the gate waiting for the aircraft. 7 people. We got this big Boeing and there's 8 people on board. It was so freaky. Then I got to Los Angeles, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to hang around the United States for a couple of months and see a few people, and then maybe go to Mexico. Then I got these intuitive feelings. No, you've got to get out by Friday. You've got to get down to Mexico this week. So okay, I cancelled all that. Went down to Mexico. And the day after I arrived in Mexico, they changed the visa requirements. So I got through in Mexico with a 6-month visa. The day after I came through, they changed that to 30 days. You could only get a 30-day visa to come into the country. So I'm lucky I got through on that day. I went to my friend's place in Mexico, and then within a week of being there, the police went around to my sister's house in Australia and said, we need to speak to your brother because he's been threatening to kill police officers. I'm like, yeah, right, you know, and my sister's just said, oh, come on, wake up. My brother wouldn't freaking kill a fly, you know. And then they shut down my bank accounts, they shut down my PayPal, they shut down my Patreons, they shut down, once they found out I was gone, they shut all my means of finances down. And so yeah, I mean, I was right to listen to my intuition. And you should always listen to your intuition. There's an electromagnetic conversation going on between you and reality all the time, and people just aren't listening to it. It's like recently there was a hurricane in Mexico, in Acapulco, and I happened to be in San Diego that day, and I had a flight booked back to Acapulco that night, and I just thought, I'm going to go to Texas and visit a friend in Texas, you know. And that night there was a hurricane, wiped out all of Acapulco, blah, 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 blah. So you should always listen to your intuition. But that was it. I mean, it was just a purely intuitive feeling that I had to leave. If I didn't leave, it was going to be bad. And not just for me, but for a lot of people. Because they could use me to get to a lot of people. And that's not big noting myself or anything. It's just because of the Skype contacts and the people that I've been doing this for a long time, you know. And I don't know, I think they see me as a bit of a threat because I don't have an agenda. I'm not trying to sell anything, you know. I'm just kind of trying to share what I feel in the hope to inspire other people to be the best version of themselves they can be, because that's what's going to change the world. So they don't like that. They don't like the type of message. They don't like anyone who isn't in fear of them. So yeah, I mean, I think it was the right thing to do, leaving when I did. But it was purely intuitive. Yeah, you got to listen to these things. Listen to these voices inside you, you know. There was a hand up the back there.
I assume you are familiar with him, Strowman. Strowman, because you're familiar with that.
Who?
Strowman, because Strowman. Certain movement, like Strowman.
Which one is it? The straw man.
Straw man, yeah. Okay. I think it's part of the learning curve. I mean, that's how they get us with word magic and stuff. The straw man, you know, the name on the license and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I understand how it works. There was a time when you can use it, and there probably still is times you can use it. You really can't in Australia now, because the police will just beat the shit out of you, because that's what they do. Even with a lot of that stuff, though, I mean, I always encourage people not to argue with cops on the side of the road and try all this straw man stuff, because they can hurt you, and they will, because they enjoy it. And when you're out there on the road, I mean, they love to do that sort of stuff. When a police officer approaches you in public or in your car or anything, my whole attitude is get out of this man's company as quickly as possible. And I'll say, yes sir, no sir, three bags full sir, and I'll see you in court. And then I'll do the straw man stuff if I need to. That's just from growing up in Australia. But, I mean, we were talking about this the other night. I mean, the name, what is the name? You're not your name. Even Max Igan, you know, are you Max Igan? Well, no, I'm not, because Max Igan is either a sound you make with your mouth, or it's words that you write on a piece of paper. I'm neither of those things. I'm living flesh. Max Igan is a calling that I will answer to, but no, I am not the name, you know. And the straw man, I mean, this is the corporate name, the birth certificate, the stuff. You know, I'll say, are you this name? And you say, yes, I am. Well, you're not. You can't possibly be a name. You can't possibly be your name. Your name is a calling that you answer to. I'll answer to that calling, but I'm not the name. Even when you want to get into the name, well, you look at my birth certificate, you won't see my signature on it everywhere. So this name, Max Igan or John Smith or whatever it is, this is a corporate entity that was created via an agreement entered into between my parents and the government. But it's not me. It's an instrument that I use to operate within that corporate world. But I'm not the instrument. You know, you go to court, you want to speak to Max Igan, like, I got my birth certificate in my pocket, you give it to the bailiff, take it up to the judge, there you go, you got him in your hand. But I'm not that name. You know, so that's the way you look at it. I mean, it's an interesting learning curve. It shows you what the corporate system is, the birth certificate, the straw man, all of this stuff. It shows you how the system works, how it's all mind control, what the matrix really is. But I don't personally think there's any remedy there. I think the remedy is in you simply knowing yourself and realising that there's only one law, which is do no harm. And some of the stuff that I said before, like questioning the validity of these people that are even claiming that is your name. You know, but I've gone through that stuff with a lot of people, and it can be fun, you know. No, I'm not the name, you know, like where do you live? That's an interesting question. Where do I live? Well, I live in this vessel. I live here, right here where I'm standing. If I take a step to the left, now I'm living there. You know, if I go down to the malt shop, now I'm living at the malt shop. And when I say, where do you live? Oh, I live at 14 Smith Street. Okay, well, you're not at 14 Smith Street now. That means you're dead. That means you're in my jurisdiction. I happen to live wherever I am. I'm alive. I'm living. So it's knowing the language. What is your address? Well, I don't have an address. If I had an address, I'd be stationary like a tree. I'm mobile. I have feet. I move around. Well, where do you sleep? Well, wherever I lay my head. You know, so it's knowing the language and knowing how they're going to use that against you and what it really means. You know, the straw man, the birth certificate, this is a corporate entity, and a corporate entity is a corpse, it's dead. It's what gives them jurisdiction over you. So when I don't do that, I really try not to play that game, and there was times when I would actually do that in public just to educate people on how it works. But over the last few years, like over COVID and all this sort of stuff, so you try doing that with a police officer in Australia now, he'd just smash your head against the window of the car and take you to jail and put you in the green bin and say this guy doesn't think he's his name, so obviously he's insane, so put him into the psych ward for 3 months and fill him full of drugs. That's what they do now. So there was a time you could use it, but there's times when you couldn't. I mean, there was times in Byron Bay when I was a bit younger. I used to cook up a lot of cannabis oil because cannabis oil cures cancer. Anyone here heard of Rick Simpson?
Yes, sir.
Rick Simpson lives in Croatia, in Zagreb, and cannabis oil does cure cancer, folks. But I remember I'd done a really big cook in Byron Bay. I'd been cooking weed up all day, so I made all this oil. I stank of cannabis, obviously. And it was the last day of school, the schoolies day. And there were like 40 extra cops in Byron Bay, and there were cops with dogs and all sorts of stuff, cops on horses. And I thought, I'm going down to the pub, I'm going to the hotel and have a couple of beers, and I'm not going to have a shower or get changed before I go. And I've just gone, and I've been cooking oil all day, and I stank of weed, you know. And I've gone into the pub, and these dogs have just made a beeline for me, you know. And I'm sitting there, I'm looking really offended, saying, can you get your dogs away from me, please, you know. And the cop's saying, you need to come outside. And I'm going, is this a request or a demand? And he said, it's a demand. And I said, what are you, a slave trader? And he went, what? And he grabbed me by the arm. And I went, I'm being repressed. This man thinks he's a slave trader and all this sort of. Made a big scene, and half of the pub followed me outside. And then I'm doing all the straw man shit, saying, what's your name? I'm saying, my name's Man. So what do you mean, man? I said, well, I base that understanding on peer-reviewed anthropological information. If you have a problem with the name, take it up with an anthropologist. As far as I know, this is called Man. That's my name, you know. And also, I went through the whole thing, and they couldn't get jurisdiction over me. They couldn't find any weed on me. They ended up having to send the dogs home because they'd read a false positive. I mean, it was great. And it took about 45 minutes of arguing with 8 cops at the front of the hotel, and about 300 people standing around watching. And it was great. It was great fun, you know. You used to be able to do that sort of stuff. But now, nah, I really don't recommend people try creating conflict with police officers in the attempt to win some sort of battle for their ego or whatever. Just get out of their company as quickly as possible. Yeah, but I mean, it's great stuff to learn, and it's a great learning curve for people to know because you see how the matrix works. But you don't think that there's any legal remedy in it. Not now. It's gone way beyond that, and they're not nice people anymore. These cops. I mean, the last couple of years have showed what these people are really capable of. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I love all that strawman stuff. It was great like 10 years ago when we used to actually use it and get away with it, and it was fun. I've done stuff in court like that with the strawman stuff. You know, don't say I'm the name. So I'm here regarding that matter, and I'll deal with it, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, are you this name? No, I'm not the name. Okay, well, if you're not going to claim the name, then, you know, and I'd say, but I'm the man who was arrested. And I'd go, yeah, but if you're not going to claim the name, I'm going to put out a warrant for your arrest for failing to appear in court. So, well, I've just told you that I'm the man who was arrested, and you're going to put out a warrant for the defendant failing to appear in court. Like, so that means, I guess, I'm not the defendant, and here I am in your court, so thank you for making that legal distinction, and walked out of their court. You know, so stuff like that. Even I got put off for a parking fine once. I was talking to you the other day. And I said I want to cross-examine the parking officer. And I said to him, did you see my car moving? He said, no, you were parked at the no parking place. I said, okay. You're quite sure you never saw my car in motion? He said, no, you were parked there. I said, okay. So you're positive that you never, and then the judge intervened and said, well, I think we've established that your car wasn't moving. I said, no problem, Your Honour, but I'm just wondering, isn't parking a verb? And they just went bang and dismissed the case. Because I wasn't parking, I was parked. And he admitted he never saw me parking. You know, so it's knowing how the language works. And it's the same as the whole straw man thing, that's how it works. And like I said, it was great fun. And it's good for people to be able to understand how they enslave you to the corporate world. And even with my sister, I mean, she went down that pathway. She sent her birth certificate back to the Vatican and did all that sort of stuff. She's been driving around for the last 10, 15 years in a car with no plates on it. It says, I am Freer. Her last name is Freer, Wendy Freer. So she's got I am Freer on a number plate and she doesn't participate with any of it. The cops fine her. She just sends the fine off to the Governor General and says, fix this up for me, please. Because she sent him a letter like 15 years ago and said, I'm just letting you know that I've sent all my stuff back, I've deregistered myself, I've wiped the engine numbers off my car, I don't use plates, I don't use a licence, so I'm just letting you know that I'm going to be travelling the common ways of the land. If any of your agents accost me and attempt to extort money out of me, I'll be sending the bill to you so you can look after it for me in case you fail to tell them I'm going to be travelling, you know. And she's been fined 3 or 4 times, and she always sends the fine to the Governor General, and next time they pull her up, there's no warrants or anything out after, so the Governor General's been taking care of it all. So, I mean, it does work to a certain degree. But, like I said, we've kind of passed a lot of it. But
my point was that we give concession, we are part of company that is doing all this kind of...
yeah.
We are participants.
We're all participants in it, yeah, but see, the thing with me, like I've always lived on the outside of society. I've never really paid taxes or anything like that. I've worked as a musician most of my life, also cash in hand stuff. I've never really, like I don't have any social record at all. All they've got is a driver's license, passport, car registration. I did have bank accounts, but they closed all them down. But that's the only 3 things I've got. I've never filled out a tax file number. I've never filled out a tax form. I've never voted. I've never had electricity or utilities booked in my name in anything that I've done. I've always had private rentals and blah, blah, blah. So I'm kind of like a ghost for them. I mean, I always lived, as soon as I left school, because I could see all this when I was young. When I was a kid in school, I said, yeah, by the year 2000, we're going to be living in like a 1984 type stuff, you know. And I was a little bit late, a little bit early maybe. But I could see it all when I was a kid, so I never participated in any of it all through my life. And by the time I became an adult, I was virtually a ghost. You know, and that's still all I've got is passport, driver's license, and car registration. Well, my Australian driver's license is expired now, so I've still got a car in Australia that I keep registered. My sister drives around, so that's all I've got is passport and registration. That's the only thing that connects me to the system. And I've always believed that why do I have to send my birth certificate back to the Vatican? If I have to fill out any forms to prove that I'm free, well, how free do I think I am to begin with? If I'm not free, if you're claiming that you control me in any way, shape or form, please show me proof of claim. If you claim you have any control over this vessel that I inhabit, please show me a contract bearing the wet ink signature of God, which gave you possession of this vessel that I inhabit. You know, and you go in there with that attitude and they don't know how to deal with you. They just don't know how to deal with you. So that's always been the way I've done it. That's the way like I approach the Freeman stuff as well. You know, it's a higher harmonic to even learning the Freeman stuff. Well, like I'm free. If you're claiming I'm not, show me proof of claim. You know, the onus is on you. You've made the claim. So I'm not claiming anything. I don't want to battle you. I don't want to go to court and win any Freeman battles or anything. I just want you to go away and leave me alone. You know, if you try to inflict yourself on me, then I'm going to ask you for proof of claim as to why you think you have control over me to begin with. You know, and if you're admitting that you think this stuff, well, you're saying you're a slave trader. Well, isn't slavery illegal? Isn't that outlawed? How do you have control over me? You know, show me the contract. And the only contract that will do is a contract between you and God, which gave you control over this vessel. And they don't know how to argue with that. They just want you to go away. It's like when I even went in there with the parking officer and said, you know, parking and what the difference. I think they got like a little red mark against my name in Australia saying, don't bring this guy into our freaking courtroom, you know. Because every time I go in there, I run rings around him and leave again. And they don't like that. So, you know, yeah. 10 minutes. We've been really? Oh. Any more questions? We've got about 10 minutes left,
Rick
right?
Simpson and maybe your relationship with him, a little bit of history, and if he's going to be in Zagreb when you're there.
Well, he'll probably come to the gig in Zagreb, I would say. Rick's been a little ill lately. He had a stroke a few years ago. But he's a great guy. He's a really good guy. And the whole concept of curing cancer with hemp oil really does actually work. I mean, really 2 hours. Wow, it goes quick, doesn't it? It's quick, doesn't it? But sorry I babble so much, folks. But, what's this?
What's the message to our children in the future?
The message to your children, be the best version of yourself that you can be. My son said to me once, what is the secret to life, Dad? What's the secret to getting through life? And I said, find what it is that you love to do and do as much of it as you possibly can until you get really good at it. And when you get really good at it, someone will pay you to do that. You know? This is why I started playing guitar and doing front of house and stuff. And if people paid me to do all this shit, if I wasn't doing it, I would have been sitting at home playing guitar and listening to music. So now I go out and I play guitar and listen to big PAs and listen to loud music, and people pay me for it, you know. So that's the secret to life. Be the best version of yourself that you can, and find what it is you love to do and do as much of it as possible. That's the secret to life, you know, and love them. Let them be all they can be. Find their personal genius and nurture that. And that'll be what they love to do. When you see them as a kid and they love to do this and they love to do that, nurture that. That's what schools used to do. They used to look for that little genius bent. Every child has their own little bent towards their own personal genius. Something that they're really good at, something that lifts their heart. You see that glow in their eyes. Encourage that. Encourage them to be that all the time. That's how you change the world. It doesn't matter what other people think. It matters what you do with yourself and the path that you lead yourself on, and how that can enrich you and the people around you. And if you're doing what you love, it enriches everybody around you. You know, think of the change we could make to the world then. So yeah, that's the message for the children, I think, anyway. Yeah. And don't stress on all this shit. It's just adults being children. You know, and there's more wisdom in children than you'll find in most adults. So, yeah. Anything anybody else would like to add? Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The ceremony is about to begin. Thanks for coming, folks. And thank you to these girls, Ivana and Sandra, for putting it together. There's also T-shirts there you can buy from these, because they paid for all this, and so if you buy T-shirts, it helps them pay for petrol and whatever. So, yeah, you know, that's the way it goes. So thank you for coming. It's been great.
Thank you, Max. This was great. So we actually officially broke the ice with our tour. And I just would like to say, why am I speaking in English? Because of you. I would like to say thank you to Zdravko Gojanović and Anita Šupe from Inicijativa Prava i Slobode iz Šibeniku koji su organizirali ovo danas ovdje. Hvala. Hvala Zdravku koji zbog obiteljskih obaveza nije mogao biti s nama. Mi smo sutra u Splitu, kao što je Max rekao, majice 10 € ako nas želite malo podržati vezano za petrol ili donacije. Svako po vlastitom nagonu i vidimo se nekom drugom prilikom. Eto. I hvala naravno Gradskoj knjižnici što su nas primili ovdje. Super. Eto. Pozdrav.